सदियों तक चली हुई आजादी की इस जंग में किसी ने योगदान न दिया हो, लेकिन दुर्भाग्य यह है कि इनके त्याग, शौर्य और बलिदान की कहानियां नई पीढ़ी तक पहुंची ही नहीं। भगवान बिरसा मुंडा ने अंग्रेजों से न केवल राजनीतिक आजादी के लिए संघर्ष किया, बल्कि आदिवासियों के सामाजिक और आर्थिक अधिकारों के लिए भी लड़ाई लड़ी। वंचितों और शोषितों के अंधेरे से भरे जीवन में सूरज की तरह चमक बिखेरी।
Vanakkam, Namaste, Namaskar. The reason we played the video was to set the agenda. The session is about the unsung warriors of Bharat. And the video which features my book on the legend of Birsa Munda also aptly brings out the contribution of Prime Minister Modi in actually invoking these unsung heroes. Because somewhere in the last 7 decades or so, succeeding the independence, history, we approached history with a very colonial mindset. And that colonial mindset also reflected in the way we studied our freedom struggle. So one of the reasons why we need to study about these subaltern, unsung heroes is to dispel the notion that our freedom movement started with the formation of the Congress Party in 1885. Our freedom movement predates the formation of the Congress Party by a good 102 years at least, because the first properly documented tribal revolution goes back to 1783 by a tribal revolutionary by the name of Tilka Majhi, and that took place in the area of present-day Bhagalpur. Also from a political perspective, since I am entrenched in politics as a national spokesperson of BJP, I feel concerned and worried when I see some entitled politicians now trying to divide our freedom fighters and questioning the contribution of certain freedom fighters like Savarkar. So those who are questioning the contribution of Savarkar might today or tomorrow question the contribution of our unsung heroes who anyway have very little documented information about them. So before they start questioning Birsa Munda, before they start questioning Lachit Borphukan, it is important for us to write more and more about these characters and to celebrate their life. Now, Birsa Munda was a very unique character. I will briefly tell you about Birsa Munda before Manoshi ji takes you through a couple of characters from the Northeast. You need to understand that our subaltern freedom movement, our tribal freedom movement was very different from the conventional freedom movement which we have grown up reading. In the sense that the task of our tribal freedom fighters was that much more difficult. The Britishers would invariably outsource the atrocities on tribals to two sources. The first was landlords, who would unleash financial subjugation upon the poor population. By 1850s, they realized that financial subjugation was not sufficient to suppress the poor population. They felt that it was equally important to culturally make them subservient or culturally subjugate that population. And therefore, in a planned way, they started introducing missionaries in tribal and backward areas. The missionaries were given targets. Every year, they had to convert some 10,000 villagers in different parts of the region. So this was the second part of the British plan to culturally also subjugate the tribal and the poor population. Now, in this backdrop, in 1875, Birsa Munda was born in a poor village called Ulihatu, which is about 60 kilometers away from Ranchi. His family, the family was a family of landless laborers. Every time they would complete an assignment, they would shift to a new location to find work. So there was abject poverty, there was abject despondency, plus obviously there was the pressure of conversion, because converted Christians were getting certain advantages which the really poor population was not getting. In this backdrop, his family, obviously his initial years were spent as and when the family would shift to a new location, he would also shift to a new location. In 1886, which is when he was about 11 years old, the family took a bold decision. They felt it was important for Birsa Munda to attain Jesuit education. Therefore, they allowed him to convert to Christianity, and he was sent off to the best school in the region in a place called Chaibasa, which was about 100 kilometers, 110 kilometers away from his village. It was a boarding school. So Birsa Munda, for 4 years of his life, from 1886 to 1890, became Birsa David. It was a difficult choice. It's like sending your kids abroad. I think the situation, the sentiment may have been similar. They felt that, when he returns, he would be leading a better life in future. For 4 years between 1886 and 1890, Birsa Munda studied in a Jesuit school. He imbibed English education. But every time he would feel that the missionaries had a malafide agenda, and that was to eliminate the cultural identity of the tribals. So there were simple points of dispute. For example, every converted Adivasi who would be buried instead of, a proper Hindu-style funeral, that would become a bone of contention between the Adivasis and the Jesuits or the missionaries. And all of these points were quietly leading to a situation where Birsa Munda was getting rebelsome. And finally, in 1890, when he was 15 years old, he rebelled. He rebelled against his teachers. He quit everything and came back to the village. So imagine, from being a potential hero in the village, he was treated as a loser because they felt he had given up on a golden opportunity. So at the age of 15, he came back to his village. For nearly the next 6 months, he was treated as a loser. People would not talk to him. And in this situation, one fine day, he just left his village and nobody knew about his presence for the next 2 or 3 years. It is believed that in wilderness, while traveling from one village to the other as a wanderer, he came in contact with a spiritual guru and a healer called Anand Panrai. And his world took a different turn. Anand Panrai was a person who was very well versed with the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, Mahabharat. Besides being a medicinal healer, using plants to heal patients. So in the company of Anand Panrai, Birsa Munda's life took a different turn, and he started learning about the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, and he started quoting Ramayana. In 1894, 4 years after he went into hibernation, 4 years after he went into wilderness, he came back to his village. And since the tribals anyway tend to be, and in those days, were more superstitious than they are now, it is believed that on the day that he returned, it was a very windy, it was a day when it was raining, there were thunder showers, and the person who first saw Birsa Munda return saw lightning flash out of the eyes of Birsa Munda. Now, it could be a superstition or it could be an imagined thing, but from that day onwards, Birsa Munda was seen in awe by all the villagers. And the way he would speak like a sage. He was a completely transformed man who could effortlessly quote from Bhagavad Gita, who could effortlessly quote from Ramayana. And he would preach about the unity among tribals. So within a matter of 6 months, he went on to become a spiritual guru with an unprecedented following. So there would be people who would throng to that village just to hear him speak, just to listen to his views on Adivasi empowerment. And mind you, all this while he had never imagined or he had never thought of a violent political revolution against the Britishers. But the Britishers got so paranoid seeing his popularity, Britishers started suspecting that he was quietly going to organize a rebellion against the Britishers. And hence they got him arrested on fake charges. They got him convicted. And for a good 2 years, he was in jail from the end of 1895, from around August 1895 till the end of 1897. And in those days, every second or third year, there would be a very bad famine or drought, which would actually end up claiming the lives of hundreds of people. So the time that he spent in jail, in Hazaribagh jail, was also the time which coincided with one of the worst epidemics in that area where many of his close associates were killed. So by the time that he came out in 1897, his core followers convinced him that the only way that you can teach the Britishers now is through a violent revolution. So in the last 2 years of his life, he organized a violent revolution, a very Rambo style. He took on the Britishers. His army organized many attacks on the Britishers, which really unsettled the British in that era. This happened, began on the eve of Christmas in 1899, went on till about the end of January 1900. And he was arrested in the first week of February. He was eventually sentenced. In fact, the sentencing was going on. The trial was going on. But he died in very mysterious circumstances in 1900 on the 9th of June in Ranchi jail. Now, it is believed that he was poisoned to death. So you can see that in one lifespan of a mere 25 years, the number of evolutions that he went through is simply phenomenal. He lived a life of maybe 70, 80 years. He lived the life that a normal person would live in 70 or 80 years. But the short-lived rebellion that he undertook really shook the might of the British empires in that region, and it led to one of the very important land reforms called the Chota Nagpur Land Tenancy Act of 1908, which gave a lot of rights to the tribals, which happened 8 years after his death, but that was the impact of his revolution. So before I take more time, the whole idea of talking about Birsa Munda, probably in the last 10 years, Prime Minister Modi has invoked the contribution of Birsa Munda multiple times in his speeches, but he remained unsung for most part of, let's suppose, 1947 to 2014, because our history was very aristocratic. We continued to celebrate certain heroes who did not deserve as much adulation as some of the real heroes did, which is the objective of this discussion that we are having today.
Yeah. During the last several sessions, it has been already discussed how we are the oldest surviving civilization in this world. Many ancient civilizations, including the Mesopotamian civilization, Babylonian civilization, perished within few decades of invasion. But we survived. It is all because of the continuous resistance offered by the kings across the length and breadth of Bharat for a period of over 1300 years. And in our history textbooks, we have grown up reading about the glory of all these invaders. We know a lot about Mahmud of Ghazni. We know a lot about Alauddin Khilji, Qutbuddin Aibak, Akbar the Great, as already discussed, then Aurangzeb. But we hardly know about those thousands and lakhs of warriors who fought in battles. They attained victory in battles. Lakhs of our soldiers, they attained Virgati in the battlefield, all for the sake of protecting our Matribhumi and our Dharma. And this stories of valor have not been told to us in our history textbooks. And now since the last 15 years, because of the digital revolution, because of the research being done, like as Tuhin ji has wrote about Birsa Munda, likewise many other researchers have written a lot about the valor of the unsung warriors. So I have written 2 books, volume 1 and volume 2 of Saffron Swords. Part 1 contains 52 episodes of valor of warriors from the 8th century till 1947. And part 2 also contains 52 episodes of valor, both men and women, in both the volumes. So there are 104 stories covered in both the books. And my latest book on Mathura, which was released yesterday, this book contains a history of the region of Mathura from the Treta Yuga to the present conflict. So this book also has a detailed account of the resistance offered by the warriors of Mathura during Abdali's invasion, during Mahmud of Ghazni's invasion. So it has a detailed record. So because whatever we learn in school, it remains with us. The ideology, it happens. The ideology that we nurture, it happens right from school level, from our homes. And so the first part that I will cover is Johar. We all know about Johar, how the women, when we speak about Johar, we all know about Rani Padmavati or Rani Padmini, who along with thousands of women committed Johar in 1303 in Rajasthan, Chittor. So before that, the first Johar took place in 712 CE in Sindh. Raja Dahir's wife. So you have heard that why these women committed Johar? Because the Muslim soldiers, the Islamic forces, they committed necrophilia. You must be knowing what necrophilia is. They do not leave even the corpses, the dead bodies of the women. So the women, they committed Johar to protect their honor, to save themselves from disgrace. So the first Johar took place in 712 CE in Sindh, and Rani Bai, the queen of Raja Dahir, she defended the fort against Muhammad bin Qasim's forces. So she defended the invading forces, the late siege of the fort from all sides, and the Rani, along with her army, she defended, and when she realized the defeat was certain, then she, along with the women, they committed Johar in the fort, within the fort. They lit a huge funeral pyre and they committed Johar. So after that, the second Johar took place in 1303 in Chittorgarh. The third Johar took place in Kampili in Karnataka, in the south. After Raja Kampila Deva, he was defeated against Alauddin Khilji's forces. So the women there, they committed Johar. Johar was also committed in Bengal. So before Rani Padmavati, Johar was committed in Bengal in 1226 CE. The Bir Singh of this region called Bir Singhpur. So Bengal was a vast region there. The Muslims ruled in a part of Bengal called Gaur. So the Gaur Sultanate, he attacked the kingdom of Bir Singhpur, ruled by Raja Bir Singh. And the first battle, the Hindu king won. In the second battle, like the Gaur Sultan, he attacked again. This time he used a tactic. He used bulls and cows with burning horns in front of them because he knew the Hindu kings won't attack cows. So they used the cows as defense. And then the Hindu king, he was defeated in the battle. And the queen, along with thousands of women in Bengal, they committed Johar. Johar was also committed by the queen and her followers in Gondwana. We all know about Rani Durgavati. She defeated the Sultan of Malwa. She also defeated the Mughals once. And during the second battle against the Mughals, she was defeated. She became a mother at 21. She was widowed at 26, and then she started ruling her kingdom. And she attained Virgati at the age of 40. So after she attained Virgati in the battlefield, all of the women of that region, they committed Johar. So we see that women, they simply did not commit Johar. They first offered resistance, and when then defeat was certain, then they committed Johar. Then I'm going to take one example because we don't have that much of time to cover so many aspects. So we all know about Bakhtiyar Khilji. So whatever I described about this Johar, it is covered in Saffron Swords Part 1 and Part 2. So we all know about Bakhtiyar Khilji, who destroyed our knowledge heritage. He destroyed Nalanda University, Telhara University, Vikramshila University. So do you know who defeated Bakhtiyar Khilji and made him bedridden for several months till he was assassinated? Any idea? Because we have not been taught in our history books. So there is an inscription in Kanai Vorasi. So if the people say that, no, this is a false story, Bakhtiyar Khilji was not defeated by the Assam king, then inscriptional evidences can never be wrong. There is an inscription in Guwahati on the banks of the Brahmaputra in a hillock. It is known as the Kanai Vorasi rock inscription. The inscription mentions the date 1206 CE. And this inscription describes the utter defeat of Khilji's forces led by Bakhtiyar Khilji at the hands of the then Assam king. The king then was Raja Prithu. So he defeated Bakhtiyar Khilji, and Bakhtiyar Khilji was so badly wounded in this battle that he could not continue with his further battlefield exploits. He could have destroyed more universities across the length and breadth of the country, but he couldn't do that. And he was assassinated by one of his own men. So in the book that was released yesterday on Mathura, so I have covered about the resistance offered by the Hindus there over a period of time. I will also describe one example of how a Brahmin, he built a temple using the materials used for building a mosque in Mathura. So it was the time of Aurangzeb. Under Aurangzeb, under the Mughals used to have fauzdars in several areas. The fauzdar of Mathura during that time was Nabi Khan. What he used to do, like under the Mughals, tax collected was known as jizya. All of us know that. So in the name of jizya, Nabi Khan used to collect extra taxes from the peasants there. And besides that, he used to collect temple wealth. And during the time of Aurangzeb, we all know about Aurangzeb's elder brother, Dahir. He was supposed to be the king after his father's death. But Aurangzeb took over, and what Aurangzeb did to gain the throne, all of us know. So Prince Dahir, when he was the fauzdar, he was also the fauzdar of Mathura for some time. When he was the fauzdar, he donated to temples. The Krishna Janambhumi temple that was there, built by Bir Singh Bundela. In the Krishna Janambhumi temple, some railings were needed to be repaired. Dahir, he donated for the railings. And he also donated for the renovation of more temples in Mathura. So when Aurangzeb became the ruler, he got all of this additions by Dahir taken away. And Nabi Singh was instrumental in doing all of this. And because Nabi Singh, he removed all the items donated by Dahir, he was rewarded by Aurangzeb. So Nabi Khan, the atrocities of Nabi Khan could not be tolerated by the peasants of that region. So the peasants under Gokula Jat, not many of us, in fact, none of us have heard about Gokula Jat in our history textbooks. Even I have not read about him in my textbooks. It is through research that I came across his name. So Gokula Jat, what he did, he accumulated a group of peasants, farmers, and they attacked the Mughal fauzdar. Even the Mughal, a fierce battle took place, and in that battle, Gokula Narayan, he is not known as Gokula Narayan as well, he killed Nabi Khan. So this was a major victory. And Aurangzeb further sent his reinforcements, and in the next battle, Gokula Jat was taken prisoner. And the way he was tortured to death in front of a huge gathering, it cannot be described in words. Like in the Agra fort, he was kept in a platform where thousands of people could see him. So amidst thousands of people, what the barbaric Mughals did, they dismembered his body piece by piece. And he kept still. He did not show any agony. He did not show any pain. And till the fingers, and from the limbs, the fingers, the legs, and each and every part of his body was cut, and then finally the head was separated from his body. And all of his family members were forcibly converted to Islam. Those who did not convert were killed. So prior to this, after this, we all know about Abdali. He attacked Mathura. So when Abdali's forces attacked Mathura, what was the main cause? What was the reason why Abdali attacked Mathura? Mathura was under Raja Surajmal Jat during that time. Surajmal Jat, what he did when Abdali attacked Delhi and he became the ruler of Delhi for some time, he took away the wealth of many rich people. And this Jat ruler, he gave refuge to few of the rich people of Delhi in Mathura. And Abdali wanted those men back from Mathura to Delhi. But the Hindu king, he did not give. Furthermore, his capital was Abdali's forces, they attacked Ballabgarh. And Surajmal Jat's son, Jawahar Singh Jat, he defended. And in the first battle, he won. But in the next battles, he again lost. And he somehow escaped from there. So when Abdali sent forces to Mathura, Jawahar Singh Jat, along with a force of some 5,000 peasants, they offered resistance in the outskirts of Mathura. So all of this, most of these places, they did not fall without a resistance. So for 9 long hours, Jawahar Singh Jat, along with the 5,000 farmers, they fought against the brutal forces of Afghanistan, that is Abdali's forces. And during this 9 hours of battle, almost 3,000 of the Hindu soldiers, they attained Virgati. Jawahar Singh somehow saved his life, and almost, according to Muslim records, some 7,000 of Abdali's forces were slaughtered in that battle. It was double the Hindu casualties. So after that, they attacked Mathura. It was during the Holi. It was the Holi festival was being celebrated. And Holi was played fresh once again with the deep red blood of the Hindus. Because Mathura is a tirth, so devotees from all across the country had gathered there to celebrate Holi. And thousands and thousands of these devotees were massacred. The Abdali soldiers, they committed genocide. And they did not spare even the children. They killed the children in front of their mothers, they severed the heads of the children, and they made a tower out of the heads of the children in front of the mothers. And this continued for 14 long days. And the river Yamuna turned red. And it continued to stay red for 7 long days. And then it turned yellow. These are the accounts of Muslim historians, not Indian historians. And after Mathura, this Abdali's forces, they marched towards Gokul. And there were some 4,000 Naga sadhus there that did not allow Abdali's forces to enter Gokul. And the outskirts of Gokul, they offered resistance. And they badly defeated Abdali's forces. They slaughtered most of Abdali soldiers. Around 2,000 of the Naga sadhus, they attained Virgati in that battle. So there's all of these stories of valor need to be told in our history textbooks so that we gain motivation, we get motivated, we get inspired. Most of the youth that do not want to remember the last 1,000 years of history because it is all about defeats. Because we have been told that our ancestors, they surrendered. They surrendered easily, they did not offer resistance. Only very few stories are being told in the textbooks. And that also, for example, about the Vijayanagara Empire, we read only a paragraph in our textbooks. So all of these stories need to be told. And this is the reason why we have been doing research. Like Tuhin ji, he has done research for his book. I have done almost 20 plus years of research, and then I've come up with this 2 volumes of Saffron Swords, and then the Reclaiming Mathura. And Saffron Swords Part 3 with another 52 episodes of Valor. The work is going on. And likewise, till my last breath, the work will continue. And that's it.
So, Manoshi was mentioning about Johar. Well, Johar is not so much prevalent in the tribal culture, but yes, there are many tribal women who were fierce revolutionaries who have contributed and whose stories remain unknown. One such instance which comes to my mind is the revolution of 1855, which is also known as the Santhal Revolution. I'm sure many of you may have heard about it, but not the details of it. In terms of scale, it was probably, in terms of geographical spread, in terms of its impact, it was as impactful as the 1857 War of Independence. It was led by a family of 6 siblings, 6 tribal siblings, 4 brothers and 2 women, 4 brothers and 2 sisters. Siddho Kano, Chand, Bhairav were the names of the brothers, and Phulo Jano were the name of the sisters. And most of them, all of them in fact, were in their 30s. So imagine they were married, they had children, but for the sake of fighting for their rights, they came together, led a revolution which, in terms of geography, spread from the present-day areas of Sahibganj in Jharkhand till the outskirts of almost Kolkata. It was a people's movement. It was a sporadic movement which started with 10,000 people participating in it in a place called Sahibganj on 30th June 1855. But within a span of a few weeks, the word spread across the entire region, and it, Sahibganj must be around 400, 500 kilometers west of Kolkata. It spread in that direction because the whole idea was to reach to the British headquarters, which was centered at Kolkata at that point of time, and to disrupt the British Empire. So many of these stories, in fact, when I was researching on the unsung tribal heroes, one beautiful thing which I realized was that there is no common connect. And yet, by the start of the 19th century, tribal revolutions were unfolding in almost all parts of the country. There were Bhils in Rajasthan who were participating in it. There were Gonds who were participating in it in the present-day areas of Telangana and Maharashtra, and plus the entire northeast region. There is a freedom fighter by the name of U. Tirot Singh who was very active in the present-day areas of Meghalaya way back in 1827-28, and he led a movement which went on till about 1832-33. So the beauty of this was that, somewhere I do feel that subaltern movements were providing fodder to the conventional freedom movement which we have grown up reading, but which most of these went undocumented because by nature we tend to be dismissive of the weaker sections of society. So when they were leading this revolution, Nobody thought that it would have an impact, and people started researching about these freedom fighters maybe 20 years after their death, which is one of the reasons why we don't have authentic sources of information of many of them. I would say the tribal freedom movement started way back in 1781 and went way right up to the freedom movement. The nature of it changes. In the initial stages, it was out and out guerrilla warfare. So if you look at the timeline, if it started at 1783, Birsa Munda's revolution lies somewhere in the middle of it. Post Birsa Munda's revolution also, there were freedom fighters there were tribal freedom fighters like a person from Jharkhand by the name of Jatra Orao, who led what Gandhi eventually did as the non-cooperation movement. His movement was about economically boycotting the Britishers, not selling your goods, not selling your farm produce to the Britishers. And by that logic, it was a non-cooperation movement. The official non-cooperation movement obviously happened about 13 years later by Gandhi. But there are a lot of things which we therefore need to learn from these tribal warriors. The last of these tribal freedom fighters was a distinguished parliamentarian by the name of Jaspal Munda. Have you heard, how many of you have heard, he was the only tribal representative in the Constituent Assembly. And if you read some of his speeches, in terms of when it comes to Adivasi issues, he was as articulate, he was as, his views were as layered as some of the views of Baba Sahib Ambedkar were on constitutional issues. He spoke at length about the Adivasi idea of democracy, which has existed for the last 1,000 years, or for last 2,000 years, which has never gone reported, which has never been studied. He spoke about why alcohol should not be, why prohibition should not be allowed, and why, that is a way of life for Adivasi. So he was a bohemian, he was a maverick in his own way. He had views which were very different, which were not conventional. But what I'm trying to say is that the nature of the Adivasi contribution to our freedom movement evolved every maybe 20 years from 1783 till about 1947. From guerrilla warfare to being a member of the Constituent Assembly, that is how diversified their contribution has been to our freedom movement. I think let us make it interactive, especially on Birsa Munda, because the legacy is still an evolving legacy, and we are approaching 150 years of Birsa Munda in 2025. And this entire year will be celebrated as the Janjatiya Gaurav Varsh by the government. It is still an evolving brand, so if anybody has a question or on any other issue, I think it would be great to make it interactive.
I'll add just 1 or 2 minutes of more text. So we have spoken a lot about the warriors. The archakas, the priests of temples, they also have been warriors because they helped. We have survived as a civilization, not only because the warriors across the length and breadth of the country, they offered continuous resistance. It is also because of the priests, the archakas, who saved our deities, even to the extent of sacrificing their lives, protecting the shrine, the Garbhagrihas. So there is this instance from Mathura. I have described in detail in my book on Mathura that was released yesterday. So we have spoken about Nabi Khan, the Fauzdar of Mathura under Aurangzeb. So there was a Brahmin, when Nabi Khan was the Fauzdar, he built a Jama Masjid in Mathura on the remains of an ancient temple. It is still there. So when Vishnu Shankar Jain was speaking about freeing the temples from the masjids, those masjids that were constructed on temples that needs to be reclaimed. So he has given a detailed account on that. So in Mathura, this Jama Masjid was built by Nabi Khan over a temple ruins. So there was a Brahmin who wanted to build a temple. What he did, he used the materials that was that were accumulated there for the construction of a mosque. Using those materials, he built a temple. And Nabi Khan, he summoned him to his court, but the Brahmin, he did not go. So enraged, Nabi Khan again sent a messenger, and he was forcefully brought to the court. He was tried, and he was put to prison. And then in the prison, he was executed to death. So likewise, there are many more such stories of valor of how the archakas or the priests, they defended the temples and they defended our dharma.
Yes, sir. You had a question.
What was the reason for that?
Sorry, if you could just repeat it, please.
Praveen Chandra Panchadev, the erstwhile ruler of Bastar in Jagdalpur, he was killed by Nehru by military action. What is the reason for that murder? Nobody knows exactly why he was killed.
Well, that needs to be investigated, but even I would not know. But the Congress per se never believed in democracy. So.
His ancestor, the Maharani of Bastar, even she was...
You have an answer? I don't have an answer.
He was mobilizing the CID and he was a descendant of Kakatiya dynasty. Yes, he was a descendant of Kakatiya dynasty, and he was mobilizing that region, Bastar region, and he was shot dead in his home itself. And it was a very tragic, and we can find that very...
I believe it was in the 50s. It was in the 50s.
Yes, it's a
well, the
mid-50s.
Congress party never believed in democracy, so, you know, I think the No, but the entire Northeast region was messed up because of Nehru's flawed understanding of tribal issues. His advisor was a foreigner on tribal issues. The whole idea was, Nehru's idea of tribal upliftment, at least in the Northeast, was keeping them confined to their silos. He never wanted them to mix up or to merge with the mainstream and for them to get mainstream. But the kind of ghettoization that it led to and the kind of problems that led to is there for the world to see. So in fact, the Northeast, barring what has happened in Manipur in the last couple of years, has been one of the biggest successes of this government, mainstreaming the Northeast population, both in terms of infrastructure and also culturally mainstreaming them. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am and sir. Actually, I have a question. In my history textbooks, it is written that the tribals accepted Islam because of Orthodox Hinduism.
Don't read such books.
NCRT books.
No, then you pass it on to me, specific pages or the specific, we'll get it banned. Because such information is clearly corrupting young minds.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
You were speaking about Bhanjdev. So his ancestor, Maharani Prafulla Kumari Devi, when the British ruled, they dominated that region. She did not follow the British imposed rules, Maharani Prafulla Kumari Devi. And the British wanted to sell part of Bastar to the Nizam of Hyderabad then. And Bastar still is very rich in iron reserves. And the Maharani did not let it happen. So what they did when she fell ill, she was taken to London, and there, in the name of treatment, she met her end. She died. And that is still a mystery. Had she been alive and had she returned, then the deal would not have been done.
Which specific books are you referring to? Because it's an eye-opener for me also. Which so CBSE, ICSE? So it mentions that because of Orthodox Hinduism, people started converting to Islam.
It's like the tribals were not part of mainstream where the varnas were actually practiced. So that
not my opinion. So they says that at one point of time the tribals were forced to be part of the mainstream, where the tribal chiefs wanted to be recognized as Kshatriyas with the help of Brahmanas by performing some rituals like Hranyagarbha or something. So
No, there is a lot of misinformation about tribals not belonging to the
Yeah.
Hindu religion, and unfortunately, there are some vested interests, which includes politicians like Hemant Soren, who are peddling this theory. So it was, in fact, on an online discussion at a Harvard forum where he openly had said this, that Hindus don't belong. Hindus are tribals are never Hindus; they will never be. In fact, I had contested it with facts, because if you travel to most of the jungles, the small shivling that you find on mountains, or in fact, they are the most original worshippers. The tribal population are the most original worshippers of Shiva. So, and there are many other facts in Deoghar, which exists in Jharkhand again. Almost more than 50% of the visitors of the devotees are tribals. So it's a fake, it's a false, it's a misconception which has been peddled for a very long time and which needs to be conclusively defeated.
I would like to add to that. I visited Vastar 3-4 months back, and I was there for a week. I visited several ancient temples in that region. So there, in most of the ancient temples, the tribals, the Adivasis were the priests. They are the Archakas. So that question of Brahmanical, whatever, doesn't arise there. So that's all tribal-dominated regions. And the temples there, at the temples there, the Archakas are the Adivasis themselves. They are the priests.
Felt but rarely seen. That's the beauty of Unsung Heroes. Thanks to both of you for bringing out so many wonderful stories of unsung heroes of our Bharat.
Thank you.